came out of nowhere, little guy. Who are you? Building my own shipping container home. Join me on my journey from construction to completion of my mortgage-free home on a homestead. And so I finally made it. It had been just over a year since I began researching this container home project, and now, standing before me, the bare earth, untamed but full of the promise of a steady ground for my future home. And with 30 days left on the county's deadline, at which point I'd have to have holes dug and rebar in the ground ready for inspection, I had to work both quickly and diligently in order to succeed. Alright guys, so foundation. Where do you begin, right? That's always a great question. Well, a few months ago, my dad and I went through the process of establishing with rebar the four corners of where the house is going to be. That's 3 containers, each one is 8 feet long, so it's 24 by 40. Problem is, we had a couple people come in to move the containers, and they accidentally dragged the containers over these 2. Now 40 feet over there is the other 2. Those 2 are preserved and accurate. These have been disrupted, so we can't use these. Bit of a shame when those 2 got torn out, but not a big deal because these 2 are still square with the property. So we're going to use these as a benchmark. So the first thing I need to do is adjust the current distance between these 2 rebar here. We had originally set them at 24 feet apart, but today, for the purpose of the foundation, the rebar actually need to represent the dead center of the corner columns, not the corner of the containers themselves. As you can see in the 3D model I created, the container home is supported by 16 cylindrical concrete columns, 4 rows by 4 rows. If we switch to side-on view, the centers of the columns is about 3.25 inches inward of the corners of the containers. So instead of the distance between the 2 rebars being 24 feet, I need to reduce the total distance by 3.25 inches inward on either side for a total reduction of about 6.5 inches. And just so I'm clear, the whole purpose today of establishing these 4 corners of rebar is so I know where to place the batter boards, which you'll learn all about shortly. So the first thing to do, we're going to assume this one is already in the center of the column. I need to bring that one in that was assumed to be 24 feet away, bring it in 3 or so inches so that it's actually in the center of the column. So let's get going. And at that very moment, without being aware of it at the time, I caught myself on camera making a big mistake, but we'll get to that shortly. Real quick, I created this fully fleshed out model of the container home itself, including details on the ceiling and truss system, internal wall designs, foundation setup, and more. This container home model is actually available to download right now. Just click the link in the description below. Additionally, you can even download the final structural plans and drawings that my engineer created, which include foundation layout, internal rebar system, and countless other details. Again, to download these items, just click the link in the description below. Alright, so first things first, we're going to need our tape measure. We're going to need ourselves a piece of string. Go ahead and take the rebar cap off of this. Expose the rebar there. Alright, got that one tied on. Okay, so now I am on the other side. And got to tie my string here. That off. Alright, we got that one tied in. Nice straight line from one to the other. Now we grab our tape measure. Okay, with our 2 strings now in place, and now with our tape measure, The goal here is to measure 3 3/16 of an inch from this rebar. Where are we at? From there inward, just a few inches inward like that, in that direction. 3 3/16 of an inch. All right, so 3 3/16 of an inch in. Okay, so that is just about there, I believe. Let's go ahead and sledge it in. All right, so after some sledging, I'm pretty confident in the new location. But the real test would be to measure from the new rebar to the one over there, and it should measure the exact amount. All right, so it just occurred to me something I didn't think about beforehand. I can't just measure a tape measure from the new rebar to the original one, because the rebars are not level with each other. So simply put, I'll just take this nifty string level thing and we take a look. What do we got? Surprisingly pretty close. Now my dad's gonna hold the tape measure right where the string is on that rebar, and we're gonna drag and we're gonna see what the measurement is. Moment of truth. A moment of truth moment. Moment of truth moment. Yeah, nice and tight, as tight as you can get. We are getting 24 and 1.75. Okay guys, so pretty interesting. It is not adding up. It might be that our first two rebars we put months ago when we were establishing the general place of the home might have been off a little bit. Not sure yet. What we're gonna do is we're gonna measure now, just to check. I probably should have done this before I started. The first rebar that was there originally, we're just going to measure from that one back to the original one and see if it's actually 24 feet. Let's check it out. You holding it nice? Yes. Now here's what's very interesting, guys, is that it's looking to be right at 24 feet. Okay guys, so I made a little math whoopsie. All right, so let me explain what happened. So basically over here on the right side is the original rebar that I decided to use as sort of the basic starting point. Instead of like pulling the rebar out of the ground and moving it over 3 1/4 inches to represent the center of the column, because as you can see here, this green here represents that 24-foot distance between those two rebars as they were originally. Instead of pulling it out and moving it over, I just figured, you know what, let me just assume that the green one is currently the center, and then all I got to do is come onto this side, and then I'll just pull this green rebar out and move it over 3 1/4 inches to represent the center. Of course, obviously, because I didn't actually move this rebar, the distance between these is still 24 feet. And so instead of having to only move this one 3 1/4 inches over this way, I had to actually move it double the distance to do both this one and this one. So I actually had to move this one 6 1/2 inches over, and indeed when I finally did that, it all worked out. So a little bit of a simple kind of brain overlook thing. Me and my dad checked the squares, the diagonals from those two to these two that had gotten like crushed and run over. And it turns out, well, we did the diagonals and it's within the margin of error for establishing the batter boards. So I think it's batter board time. All right, so here's one corner. There's another corner. There's another corner. There's another corner. These are not in their final locations at all. I just threw them there in the general area. My thinking was the batter boards would be 30 inches from that rebar over here on one side and 30 inches from there over there. The reasoning? Well, the footing underground for the concrete pedestal
of each column is 3 feet by 3 feet. That means from that rebar center, it's going to be 1.5 feet over, 18 inches. But since we're going to need room to dig, the batter board would be an additional 12 inches this way for a total of 30 inches this way and 30 inches that way. Let's go. Now I'm just going to grab this sucker and put it in position. Okay, lined up with the flags. Guess a good idea would be to make sure that from the flag to the end here and the flag and the end over there is about the same distance. Stakes are now pounded in. Now it's time to attach those horizontal ones up top. Got to make them level though. Okay, so interesting little conundrum we just had here. So the whole ground where the container home is going is sloped. It's higher here but lower over there. And depending on how far down into the sand I hammer this, if this thing is too high up, then I won't be able to, given the length of these 3-foot long stakes, I won't be able to have that batter board over there high enough so the top of it is flush with the top of this one. So basically we did some math, we pulled some strings, and I got to significantly lower, hammer down this batter board over here by an additional 14 inches. Got a string tied to the very top of this one. Then I'll attach it to the very top around here. All right, both in place. Snap our level on there. And of course, not level yet. All right, I smacked in a few hammers, a few sledges, and we're level enough for our needs here. Okay, so just sledge that one in. Let's go ahead and repurpose this one. I use one of those fancy people knots that are pretty easy to undo. So take that off. And now all I got to do now is pull on it on both sides and it undoes itself. No more knot. All right. String attached. Let's check level. Way off. Hammered it in. We're looking great. Okay, so with these suckers leveled out, the stakes are leveled out. Now it's time to drill the horizontal board to the stakes. Wow, that took a while. This is now level and final. So with that established, this is now a benchmark. And the key benchmark that this thing will be used as is every other batter board unit from that corner to that corner and to that corner has to be level at the same elevation as this one. So now when I go on to the next one, maybe that one over there, not sure, maybe I should start over there, don't know yet, I gotta think about it. When I go over here now, whereas here it was just, 30 inches in both directions from the rebar in the center, throw them down. Now I think we have to start introducing our water tube water level. And that means that now the final elevation of that batter board has to be level with this one, and the same with all the rest. So things get a little more interesting now. Oh my God. You just came out of nowhere, little guy. Girl. Who are you?
So this little doggy appeared. He was very bashful yet eager, which is why it looked like he was dragging his hind feet. He ended up sniffing around the property for the next 20 minutes. He ate some of our leftover blueberry muffins, and then he eventually left. Over the next couple weeks, he'd come by my land occasionally, and I'm pretty sure I eventually saw him inside someone's backyard, who are probably his owners. A pretty interesting random event in the middle of hard day of building the foundation for my home. Back to work. And here we are using the water level tube. We basically just went from one batterboard corner to the next, using the tube to ensure all batterboards were at the same elevation / level with each other. As you can see here, whenever the water level tube wasn't long enough to go from one batterboard corner to the next, we kind of bridged the gap with a temporary stake in between, as you can see.
And good morning, everybody. It is foundation day 2. Last time we got the 4 corner batter boards set up, and now we just got to put our additional batter boards for every single extra row of columns left. 16 pedestals in total. So we need to set those batter boards up. Let's get to it. So from this first rebar here, 92 inches and 3/16. Just drop the sucker there. All right, now from there is 96 inches is the next increment.
This is 96?
This is the now 96 inches from the center of this column to the center of that column. 96 inches, by the way, guys, is 8 feet, the width of a shipping container. Last time, everybody, just like last time. Yeah, it's a good idea. All right. Okay, that's number 1. Okay, bring ourselves over to the next one. I lie down. All right. You still good? Okay. Okay, we leveled them out. Now we are putting the horizontal boards on the rest of these stakes here. And we're putting the top of the board flush with the black markers, black marker marks that we put earlier with the water level tube. long last, we are back. So first we're gonna eyeball our string and weight.
So let me give you guys a quick rundown of what exactly we're doing here. So as you can see, there's the string on the right. That's the one that's attached to the 2 rebars, which we put on day 1. And then on the string on the left is the one that we have attached to these weights made out of just random pieces of 2x4 tied around with a string tied to them. And they're hanging over the batter boards. So basically the string between the 2 rebars, they basically form a straight line. And that straight line is sort of an arbitrary reference point we could start with. So with the strings that are laying on top of the batter boards, the string on the left side of the screen there, we're just trying to get that string on the left to basically be as close as possible lined up over that string that's attached to the rebar. And just like kind of how the string that's attached to the rebar are sort of an arbitrary starting point reference, the string, the first string we're putting up of these batter boards, is also kind of an arbitrary starting point reference. The real precision is going to start coming in when we start to add the next few strings, and at which point we'll be verifying the true final accuracy of everything using the 3-4-5 method.
You can clearly see it is not over that other pink line and rebar. So I'm gonna go ahead and that is my rough eyeball. It's pretty nice, I'd say. So now, just to be sure, we're gonna grab our string. You got a knife over there? Mr. Plumb Bob. Now we're into Mr. Plumb Bob land. So let's see how this comes out. Put the line.
Don't touch the line.
Yeah, that's like goddamn centered, man.
That's cool.
All right. Now we're gonna check this side for plumb. Mr. Plumb. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we did this one. We should
Nail it.
mark it.
Yeah, let's.
Give it a mark.
We're gonna mark where the string goes so we can nail it later. Marked and marked. This line, ladies and gentlemen, is officially final.
So we proceeded to continue hammering nails where the strings were supposed to be. And of course, we began using the 3-4-5 method to ensure exactly where every other string was supposed to be in relation to the other. And although by the end of the day, we were pretty close as far as how accurate the 3-4-5 method was getting us, there was still a little bit of error. It wasn't perfectly coming out right. So we tried, and the day came to an end, and we decided we'd have to come back the next day and fully finish and finalize all the strings and ensuring that they're all square and in their proper location.
Foundation day 3. It has arrived. I don't know, 10 a.m. or something. The RV camper is now on the property. I am now here full time living on this property. So we're gonna go ahead and keep going. We're gonna go ahead and keep tweaking things until we're confident that we have, at the very least, the 4 corners established. Okay guys, very big moment here. Very big moment. So we re-squared that corner. It's nice and square again. We moved that nail over 1/16 of an inch. That side now measures exactly as that side with these 2 square. We're gonna measure this long length and should be the same length, pretty close, ideally perfect match as that length. And you know, if we get that within a reasonable tolerance, then I think we're happy, we're ready to go, at least in the 4 corners. We're freaking done. And we're good, guys. All 4 sides measure the same. Those 2 squares we checked them all the last time as well, but we just checked those 2 of the square. So all 4 corners are official and final. Now we simply have to fill in the gaps with the other batter boards, which I imagine it's gonna be easier, but maybe there's something there I haven't thought of. Let's find out. All right, guys, simply put, we're filling the gaps now. One batter board for the columns that run down the middle, that line of columns. 156.5 inches measured from that corner column to this corner column right here. So we got to find where on that batter board 156.5. The next one is measuring 160 inches to the next batter board, and then from that one, yeah, from that one to the last one, 156.5. So let's go. All right, here I go. Good? Yeah, sorry about that, bro. Okay, we just did that side. Now we're gonna measure 13 feet and 0.5 inch from there to here. Here we go. Okay. All right, now we're taking our block weights and we're gonna set them up into position. As you can see, you simply drop the sucker over the line. All right, guys, for reference, there's our line right there, our mark. I guess we'll plumb bomb it. We'll plumb bob it. Yeah, that's it right there, guys. So interesting thing, guys. For some reason, when we put that string over that batter board, you might be able to see that there's like a finger thick gap, solid, more than a ½ inch, I would say. Even though we made sure that all these batter boards were level. So we don't know why there should be such a gap. So we're gonna do a quick test. So we've done some finagling and it's a bit interesting. We're not sure, so I'm just gonna sit here and record a little bit while we brainstorm, because we double checked the water level. I can say with confidence that I believe that the top of the 4 corner batter boards, no, the top of every single batter board we put in is level, nice and flat and level. But when we pull the string across from one batter board to the other on this direction, orientation, we're getting about a ½ inch gap that slowly starts to close as you go in that direction. It's about I don't know, ½ inch over there, maybe less. But here it's like almost like a ½ inch, maybe a little more. So even after all that double checking, because you would think that the strings would reflect the levelness that of the tops of the batter boards that we established with the water level. Now, could it be the slack? Could it be weight over 40 whole feet? How about this? Why don't we
But if it was weight, it would go like this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It wouldn't go like this. It would go like this.
That's true. That's true. All right, guys, so I'm here inside the RV, as you can see, and I just wanted to explain to you guys real quick how useful it is to have a 3D model. Now, technically, I'm sure I could have done this with a little bit of math, but I figured why not just punch it into the model. But I wanted to know, well, if the batter boards aren't perfectly level, what would, let's say, ½ an inch of a discrepancy over the span of 40 feet in 2 points not being perfectly level make in our measurements of that distance of 40 feet? So what I simply did was I came here to the model, grabbed the tape measure. I drew a couple lines here. I put this tape measure on this corner, zoom out, and I measured over here. And this measurement to this corner here is 40 feet or 480 inches. And then what I simply did was from this little corner here, this little corner right here, I measured up ½ an inch to this one. So if we know that this line all the way back to the other side is 40 feet, I wanted to know, let's see, if from over here to over here is 40 feet, what does it measure in the model if I go up ½ an inch from here to this dot here? So I grab the tape measure and we pull a line and let's see what happens. Just pull ourselves a line. We go all the way to the other side 40 feet. And when I pull that tape measure across and connect it to this dot here, 480 inches. The model's telling me 480 inches. It's telling me the exact same distance as if I didn't have that 1 inch. And you know, this model, it can tell you, you know, 480 and 1/16 of an inch. It can get very precise. Another incredible benefit of having a model on hand. It allows you to do and figure out these things in real time.
This container home model is actually available to download right now. Just click the link in the description below.
Absolutely hot as hell out here. I am soaked.
And as the Florida sun raged hot around us,
Damn, it's hot as fuck. You better hydrate yourself, man.
we continued pulling strings, measuring, marking locations, hammering nails, and finally tying strings to the nails.
Okay guys, it's hot as hell out here. Major milestone about to happen. We got the final nail right here. That's the final nail right there. Well, there it is. This is a major moment because all batter boards are up, all strings are in place. Every single point where the strings cross is the center of one of the pedestal columns that we're going to have to erect. I can now look at this and say I know exactly where every pedestal column is going. Pretty amazing.
In the next episode of Think Outside the Container, I begin the process of digging 16 holes for the foundation columns. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and click all so you're notified when the next episode comes out. And as always, anything's possible when you think outside the container.